I think the job is Purdy's to lose if he's healthy, or when he's healthy. But that's my question. What if it's not 6 months? What if it's 7 months? What if it's 8 months? You need somebody who's won games for you.
Yes.
Because that team is too good not to have someone who knows.
All right, so this morning we were talking a lot about Patrick Mahomes, and where he sits among the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Now that he's off to start, he's off to. You can't mention the greatest quarterbacks of all time unless you mention Joe Montana, a guy that I got to know as a kid a little bit, and now he joins my podcast. So this is pretty damn cool. Joe, do you remember he was running around at the Pro Bowl? I feel like I shared a car with you a couple times.
You know what? I think I'm pretty sure it was you.
Yeah, it was me.
But can I tell an embarrassing moment?
Yes.
I'm almost positive it was you. It might have been your brother. So we're at the Hall of Fame. Do you remember this?
Sure.
We're at the Hall of Fame, and Mr. DeBartolo has a party, and a couple friends of mine were watching the boys, and I see one of them coming in the door, and I turn to my wife and go, "Oh no, this is not good. This is not good." You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Not good.
So he comes over and he goes, "We got a little problem." I go, "What's that?" "Well, your son and Howie's son are both naked. They're seeing who can jump in the ice machine and stay in the ice machine the longest."
Yeah, that was us. Yep.
Oh my God.
So we get a little Pro Bowl action back in the 80s, and then in 2000, that's Dad and you going in the same year.
Yeah.
I mean, and we had to make it interesting. And then I just found this out today, Joe. Dad's first sack in the NFL was against you.
He didn't sack me ever.
Yeah, then he's lying. He's just like, yeah, I don't remember that.
No, it was so much fun playing against those guys. They had a really good team. Yeah. Especially up front with your dad, and then they had that knucklehead Matt Millen in the middle, and it was tough playing against them. But you know what? Sometimes in the middle, Matt made me laugh so hard while I was standing at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. But it was just. You look back on those times, man. There was nothing like it. I'm sure you do the same. When you look back and you go, but those you just can't get. You just don't have that. You can't find that camaraderie, the battles that you do against each other, but the respect you have for all. And my wife and I, we laugh all the time because my wife finally said to me, "Why don't you like Phil Simms?" I go, "I don't know." Because he's the enemy. Yeah. And he's always like beating up on our defense. And she goes, "Well, have you ever spoken to him?" I go, "No." She goes, "Why don't you try?" So one day, we were doing something. And I said, "So my wife said I should talk to you." And we both started laughing, right? Like neither one could figure out why we didn't like each other. And then as it moves on in life, right, he ends up helping coach the boys in throwing.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we've become great friends, and he just loves the boys, and they love him. And Nikki makes fun of his hair all the time, like he makes fun of mine or lack of my hair.
Yeah, you still got it going, though, man, up there. So,
was
it like that? Was it like that, Joe, with guys? A lot of them that you played against for a decade. It's like a different time now. Like I was at the Super Bowl. It's like a week-long event. Everybody's partying. They're meeting up with guys from other teams, running into people, the age of social media, the jersey trading. Like the 80s seemed a little bit more all business, when it came to the guys across the sideline. Were there guys that you became tight with later?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at – so when Phil was throwing with the boys, he was working out in Jim Bird's facility. So, and Jim and I, when he came to the 49ers, we just laughed about it. Like everybody said, "Well, that was a terrible hit." I go, "It wasn't the hit; it's my head hit the ground." Mm-hmm. Because like a dummy, we quarterbacks when we let a ball go, instead of like taking your eyes off it and protect yourself, we all want to try to watch where it goes. So you keep your head up. Then the last thing that hits is your head on the turf, and that's why that was it.
Yeah.
And we laughed all the time, but it's fun because when he worked out, Jim was always over in the facility that Jim Berger owns, and it was fun.
Yeah.
But you got to know a lot of guys, and as the years went on, like Mel Blount from the Steelers, we got connected through cutting horses, which was crazy thing that we both used to do. And there was a lot of guys that you met, and it was a little bit different though, obviously, when we had our 2 weeks and when you were going to another Super Bowl, meeting other guys, it was friendly, but it just wasn't like it is today. And I think maybe social media has a lot to do with, that connections and, people staying in touch a little bit easier, for a while. I think we were there when the first cell phones started coming out. So
I used to ask my dad, I asked my dad this actually recently, like during the playoffs, how the hell did y'all like get the scores from around the league? Or, you go back in the locker room, be like, who we playing next week? I'm sure that maybe they had it up on the Jumbotron, but word traveled slower.
Yeah, a lot slower. A lot slower.
That's crazy. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was about the Golden Auctions thing you got going on, which is really cool.
Yeah.
We had Ken on the show. Guy's unbelievable. I mean, like, it's just so interesting to hear his story, how he started, the things that he sold, some of the stuff that he has in his possession. We got the link in the description of the pod to some of these awesome items that you're auctioning off. Some of them I saw are just incredible, and still at this point, and there's a couple weeks left, priced affordably. Like, I'm like, I could get Joe Montana's gold jacket.
I don't keep up with what I haven't been on the site, but it's been a long time, and we've moved a couple times, and we're trying to downsize, and we're sitting here going, what are we going to do with all this stuff? You got to find storage for it.
Yeah. We
asked the kids, take whatever you want, and luckily for me, I have 4 kids and I got 4 rings, so those were the biggest things. And it's time, you go out to all these autograph signings, right? You see people buying all this stuff, and we're like, well, guy, if they're going to buy stuff, why shouldn't they buy something that's real? It came from me when I played. My collections are the things that I've collected over time, and the money's going to go, a portion of it to charity, the rest are going all to the kids. So it's not like I'm doing it for the money for me. It's that I don't have any space anymore.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm looking behind you. Yeah,
I'm tired of looking at it, and eventually after a while, I love the game. I love watching it all the time. You just kind of move on with your life, at some point. And I started a little seed stage venture fund that we've been investing now since 2015. Right now there's 5 partners and all early stage stuff, and just having a blast. But I still can't wait for Monday or Sunday or Thursday. Yeah. I still like watching the games, but I'm just not a big, huge part of our life. Jennifer gets us, if she decides, hey, you guys want to go somewhere and let's go for this hike, or let's go to this place, and everybody's a doer in the family, more than a watcher. And while I love watching the game, I'm not a very good spectator at all. I'm not sure how you feel after that.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, because like for me, just even doing this in the capacity that I do it, it heightens the sense of, I wish I was out there sometimes, like being so plugged into the game. And I think you've made some amazing plays and you've won some big games, but I think one of the most amazing things you've done is you've transitioned post football quietly. You don't hear a lot from you, and I know that you're not like terribly involved, as you just alluded to, in the day-to-day football stuff. You still love the game, but has that helped you kind of create a barrier for yourself, so you're not like, man, I'm still in it and I'm feeling like I'm tempted or wishing that I was still playing?
Yeah, I think the good thing about it is that Jennifer and I and all 4 of our kids live in the city here, and it's an hour away to the facility. If the facility was here in the city and I was closer, it might be a little bit different. Yeah. I might be around, try to be around more, but I miss the game. I don't miss like hanging around and going every game. And well, people, when you go to the game, people just you can't watch the game.
Yeah.
So everybody said, "Are you staying for the Super Bowl?" I go, "Nope, we're on a flight at 12 o'clock. I'll be home. We'll watch it at home." And I watched it with some friends yesterday, and it's so much more relaxing. And the beer's still really cold by the time you get to drink it.
There's a bathroom right there.
Right there. There's no line.
Yeah, no, I got out of there Saturday, and I'm the same way as you. I like to watch at home. And, I do miss the game, especially when it's a big one like yesterday, because it's like, you got to go 4 times. You got to go 4 times. You won 4 times. You've done everything, man. It's just like, but you're like, damn, that went by in a heartbeat. The 2 times I went to the Super Bowl, it's just such a flash, and it's hard to soak it in. You'll never, I don't care. I bet if you were there 7, 9, 10 times, when you move on, you still watch the game and you're like, man, it just took so much work to get there. But it goes by so fast.
Yeah. And I look back and then, when I was in Kansas City, I had a 3-year contract and I left after 2, and you sit there and go, maybe if I'd have played 1 more year, some of those new rules would have kicked in.
Exactly.
I could have kept playing.
Exactly. That would have been a good game to play in a couple nights ago. The quarterbacks weren't getting hit. The protection was great. What did you think about that game watching it?
I thought it was pretty typical in the beginning. They just Philly just came out and pounded the ball. Yeah. But it didn't seem like, I don't know, I think Kansas City's adjustments must have done something different because they really shut that down. I mean, they didn't completely shut it down, but they slowed them down enough to where, Kansas City started scoring more points and they were carrying the ball and they were starting to do the things. I think they tried to take Kelsey away early, and then Juju took over for a little bit, and then you got to start trying to cover him, and things go back to Kelsey again. And Mahomes is just both those quarterbacks played really well.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. As soon halfway through at halftime, I just pointed to one of our friends and go, when they showed Jalen, I go, that's going to be your MVP if they win.
Right.
And because he was off to a crazy start in the first half, and then they just slowed him down. But it was fun. Obviously, me in Kansas City before playing there, it's great to see the Chiefs win, but Patrick is just a freak.
Yeah.
He's just a different person and just a different quarterback where, he's not a runner, but he's a mobility guy. He wants to get out there and extend the play and make things happen that way. And the nice thing is that you got guys who understand that, right? And when he starts moving, they're moving. There's nothing worse as a quarterback when you start moving and you're going, okay, why are you still going that way when I'm going that way? Exactly. You're supposed to be coming and help me. But I think everybody understands that. But I still, in the end, I thought it was a great game to watch. It's fun.
No question. It was a lot of fun. Even as an Eagles fan who wanted to see Philly happy, we got one of the best Super Bowls of all time when you look at it. Of course, it's decided on a call that probably doesn't get called most of the time, but also definitely not in your era.
No, not at all. The sad part is if you're going to use instant replay, just my feeling is then make decisions on everything. Don't pick what you're going to make a decision on, because you can go on down that line and you can watch guys where somebody's grabbing somebody almost every time.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost, I guess, it's impossible to try to do that.
Yeah.
But, when you make calls that make a difference, it's hard because they see what they see. And then at least in that time of the game, aren't they supposed to review it upstairs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't all those things get reviewed? Mm-hmm. So obviously somebody saw the same thing, but hey, there's bad calls. I can go back to our Washington game against the Redskins in the championship game. I'll show you a couple of bad calls.
Yeah, I bet. And there was no justice.
No, we had 2 phantom calls in the last play on holding on Ronnie and one on Eric Wright that you're going, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And that ends up letting him win the game.
Yeah.
And so it happens to everybody. So it's not like it's just there but it's hard in the Super Bowl because there's so much more on the line than a regular game or like our game to get us into the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm the same. I'm not officials got it tough though.
They do.
Yeah. You know what I think we should do is also. Well, no, you know what? I think what people get, it's sort of like what I say about people understanding why guys want to play so long.
Yeah.
Is go play on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And you one game, I don't care, win or lose, and you'll feel the adrenaline, the ups, the downs, the camaraderie with all your teammates. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And you can't find anything that gives you that feeling after you leave. Yeah. And so I guess maybe we could say the same thing about a referee. Maybe we should go try and referee one game and see how many mistakes we make. Yeah. Because they're making it like that, you know, and it's hard. So I don't know. It's sad to see, you know, one thing make a difference in a game, but I can't remember the down and distance and what it was if it really would have. Did they have more?
3rd and 9. You know, Philly would have had 1:20 and no timeouts. You know, and probably 40 yards to get into Jake Elliott's range, and I think it would have been a nice finish to a great game. Might have seen overtime, but there's nothing you can take away from Kansas City. I mean, they came out in the second half and won that game. You know, so you talking about not being able to replace that thing on Sunday. I had somebody really smart tell me that. He's like, don't go looking. It was one of my coaches, Al Groh. He coached me in college. And then so he was like, listen, man, don't waste time trying to find something to replace football because there's no replacing it. You need to find something else that you mimic the work ethic and the commitment, and if you're lucky, the camaraderie, but there's no replacing it. And I think about that in with regards to what we just heard a couple weeks ago, which is Tom Brady's retiring. He's the only guy that really I can compare to you with the resume at all. He's done so much. He was still playing at a pretty high level, although I did turn to my buddies in here in the studio at the end of this past year, and I said, this is the first time I've seen Tom Brady look like this, where I'm like, I just don't know if it's a sure thing that we're going to get the Brady you're used to seeing next year if he comes back. What did you make of the retirement, the timing, and everything he has to weigh, and how hard is it going to be for him to move past it?
Well, he's got like 300 and some million reasons to go past it, doesn't he? So, but I kind of felt a little bit like you. You know, it's hard. It's really hard because if I criticize him, everybody's like, well, you just don't like because he's better, you know, this and that, and it's not. But I saw the same thing you did coming down the end of the year. You know, he just wasn't the same player that you saw even last year or even the very beginning of this year. And things just started to kind of come apart. And, well, you know, he's played so dang long. My hat's off to him. It's not like I'm making, you know, him look bad or whatever, trying to. It's just that people were saying, well, you know, he wants to go to a team that wins. I go, well, okay, well, just go back and turn the video on and watch, because, you know, some of that was, you know, a good portion might have been his fault too. Yeah. And I don't think no one wants to blame it on him. And, but I'm just saying that the same thing you felt when you look at it from your perspective, my perspective, and other non Tampa Bay Tom Brady fans out there, there's a difference that we saw as it came down to the end of the season. And I'm happy for Tom. What the heck? He's had a tremendous career. So can't blame him for retiring. And everybody said, well, let's talk about his retirement. I go, I did that once already. I want to wait and make sure.
Yeah, we got to make sure, because when he came out and he was like, I still love football and this, that, and the third. And I feel like now back in your day, it was like when guys were done, they were done. And now there's more of the gamesmanship of, okay, I can retire now. I'll unretire after camp. You know, that's the move. Or late in the summer, I'll handpick my team. It has become kind of a thing with that. So Brady, I mean, great run. you two of the best ever, and it's fun to just it's fun to watch Mahomes now with something to chase, whether it's you or it's Brady. It's just like, okay, now I feel like the torch has been passed, and he's the face of the league, and he's got a long way to go to catch y'all. But with Andy and him, you just never know. I mean, from a Super Bowl standpoint, that sort of thing.
Well, it's nice to see though the transition that they were able to, or how they were able to keep the success, and when they got rid of a bunch of players.
Yes.
Right? I mean, they lost some pretty good players that they traded, but yet they still kept things going, and he kept moving things, and their defense played pretty well too throughout the season, and that's what we all know that they always say defense wins championships, and those were two pretty good defenses in there. And when we won our Super Bowls, I'm not sure, but at least 2 of those 4 years, I think our defense was rated number 1.
Yeah.
And maybe another year, number 2. So there was one year that we kind of got in there. We didn't have a tremendous win-loss record, but we squeaked in and ended up winning the Super Bowl. Yeah. But you can't win without those guys. If you can't stop them, I mean, at first they just couldn't stop Philly. Yeah. And all of a sudden they came out and start getting some stops, and then they start scoring. So it'll be fun to watch them. Yeah. It'll be fun to watch where they go from here.
Yeah, pretty adaptable group. They've changed their whole line. They changed a bunch of targets outside, and they still rolled offensively, which is a testament to Andy and Pat. I think that's the teamwork. Everybody's like, is it Brady or Belichick? The whole thing. I'm sure you had interesting working relationships with coaches, and we'll get into that. But it's all about the relationship between those two guys, and they've mastered that thing. So, Trent Dilfer said something recently about it's hard to compare eras. He said it, I wouldn't say it like this, but he's not impressed with today's quarterbacks, and he included Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in a sense that y'all had to deal with so much more. And I alluded to that when we were talking about the holding penalty or the non-holding penalty in the Super Bowl. Do you watch the game now, and how different would it have been, and how different was it? The guys are unimpeded now. You can't touch them. The game was more physical. You played through more injuries. Just do you watch the game today and say, what if I played today?
Oh, I would have loved to. I mean, played with Jerry Rice and John Taylor and Brent Jones and Roger and those guys today in our defense. But the biggest difference, though, and it's it's minute to a lot of people, but it's big to a quarterback. If I know that guy can't hit me, it's easier for me to stand in there and throw a ball accurately.
Yeah.
But when you know that there's a guy coming straight on you as you're getting ready to throw, and as soon as you let that ball go, he outweighs you by 125, 150 pounds, and he is going to plant you in the ground.
Yeah.
There, he's going to drive you one step or two, get you off balance, and then he's going to compress you in the ground. And that was the big difference maker back then. So today, if you have not played the game at that position or been involved in the game, that doesn't sound like a big difference. That we can't hit him because they hit him and knock him down, but it's not the same. Yeah. At that level of the game, it's a little bit more of a difference than people imagine. You're still getting pressure. You're still having to move around things, but they took away a lot of those hits that really were the most dangerous too for the quarterback on top of it. Because typically we're the only guy usually getting hit standing still by people who outweigh you by that many pounds, right?
Exactly. And I always used to think of us as the tough guys because we hit y'all. But the more I watch football as a man sitting on the couch, I'm like, y'all are some of the toughest guys on the field, especially in the 80s. And, I heard you talking about, we just mentioned it, Leonard Marshall was the guy's name.
Leonard Marshall, yeah.
Where you're rolling out to your right and you dodge LT in the NFC Championship game. And in your mind, this guy's coming from behind you. And in today's game, you trust the rules and the enforcement of the rules and the repetition of that. and you just can't trust it. And that hit results in, what was it, a sternum, a concussion?
Well, yeah, he's separated with some cartilage in my sternum and knocked the wind out of me. When you get the wind knocked out of you, normally you can breathe out a little bit. I couldn't breathe. I honestly am thinking I might die right here because I cannot breathe at all. But my chest hurt so bad that I had no idea my hand was even broken until they sat me up. And finally I said, "Doc, you got to check my finger. I think it's broken." So he looked at my finger and he said, "No, everything's good." Well, and I said, "Doc, I'm not sure, but I don't think it belongs under there like that." And he spiral fractured when he had me in the air.
Yeah.
He had his hand on my hand. And when we hit the ground, as he tried to compress you, just naturally, he like kind of ripped back on my hand and spiral fractured it.
Golly.
And that's why I say, like, I would have survived the hit, right? Hit me as hard as you want. It's that compression that did everything. So I would like to say, go ahead and hit the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Let them hit the quarterback. Just don't compress on top of them because there's no chance for us to protect ourselves if you want to try to do your job. Yeah. And that part of it, I could have I would have gone out for a play or two maybe, because he knocked the crap out of me. I won't lie. Because I half backed into that. But the problem was I saw Jerry Rice down the field and he was open. Yeah. And after I dodged LT in my mind, I'm going, "Oh yeah, I just got rid of LT." Because that's not easy.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably the lead of the whole conversation is you juke LT. Which is pretty cool. But, the AstroTurf has a lot to do with what you're talking about. I don't know if it was AstroTurf that game, but, the field surface was dangerous. There was also you guys, and this is one that I had to adjust to as a rusher late in my career, was like we couldn't hit y'all below the waist anymore the same way. And in some situations, we're not even coming in there on purpose like that, but you're diving, you're scratching your claw, and you might get pushed into, you might be getting held, the whole thing. And that's another thing that I think is pretty major. These quarterbacks don't have to contend with is they can set their feet. They know that chances are nobody's going to fall into the legs.
Well, I think what happened there, and I'm not sure if you even privy to this or if you watched any film of this guy, there was a defensive back for the Eagles that used to blitz, and he would not even try to take you up high. He would dive at the quarterback's plant leg. Ooh. You can look it up. It'll be easy to find out.
Okay, good.
But I think that was part of it, and the rule that came along after that was looked at to start, back then because as you know, there's enough injuries in this game. You don't need to try to hurt somebody.
Yeah, no, it's actually hard
and for you guys, when you're mixed in with the other big guys, and you're falling down, that's typically an accident or that's what you can grab. And what this guy was coming in on, untouched, and then don't even try to hit him. They just go straight for the plant leg. And
it was the Wild West, as far as just the whole. You went out with a concussion in the 80s. I know we're well past this, but what was the protocol? There was no protocol, was there? Was it just, hey, are you awake?
What kind of car do you drive? Yeah, okay, you're good.
Oh, my God. I remember I was having a great game, actually, at Candlestick, and they got me on the sideline. I got dinged. And they're reading me the riot act, and I'm telling them exactly what fucking day it is. I'm telling them what time it is. They asked me where I go. I'm in, I remember it was Santa Clara or whatever the municipality I was in. I didn't say San Francisco. I want to get back on that field, but y'all didn't have to jump through those hoops.
No, no, it wasn't that. When you were clear, when you felt like you were clear and ready to go, they gave you a couple little things. They checked your eyes and gave you the nod. Here you go.
Wild. That's wild. Yeah. And my dad used to talk about just things that are foreign to me, like guys smoking heaters in the locker room. Did you guys have guys ripping darts in the locker room? What's the last year that you saw somebody smoking a heater in the locker room?
It was in the 80s. Yeah, that was late 80s too. Yeah. It was one was a wide receiver and one was a defensive end.
I bet it was
Both
Charles Haley.
No, it wasn't Charles Haley.
Okay. That dude was crazy, right? Charles Haley was...
Fred Dean. You remember Fred Dean?
Fred Dean, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he and Freddie Solomon, they used to do it all the time.
That is it's amazing to me with the nutrition today and everything. You just go back in the late 80s and guys are smoking in the locker room. It's crazy.
I know.
How about Charles Haley, since we're here? Everybody's got a Charles Haley story that I've talked to that they play with.
Yeah.
Just the antics in the meeting room, the locker rooms.
Charles was crazy in a lot of ways. He was just. But I'm going to tell you a story on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Right. As crazy as he was, he had Jerry Rice chasing him around one time with a fire extinguisher trying to kill him. So because he picked on everybody. It didn't matter who you were. Hey, when you got on the same bus that he did, when you landed in another city, he sat there and he just picked on everybody till he could get somebody to stick with him, right? Battle. But the man has a heart of gold.
Yeah.
So one day, the offensive lineman and defensive lineman don't always hang out, right? So one of the offensive linemen was doing some putting on a new porch or doing something with a new porch or something, and he was asking some of the other offensive linemen to see if they could come over and help him. And I don't know if anyone ever did, but what he told me was he got up and that next morning there was a knock on the door, and he walked out and he said, "Charles, what are you doing here?" "Well, I heard you needed some help with your porch. I came over to help you." Wow. And so it's like he never asked Charles, but Charles overheard him, but he's like that.
Yeah.
But he's also like, when you see him, I just can't stop laughing just looking at him, because I know he's going to say something funny about somebody. He doesn't care.
Yeah. The stories I've heard, he just seemed like an all-time classic. I guess it could go either way, but he seemed like a classic. Another defensive player, I believe Ronnie's the godson or godfather of one of your kids. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, youngest son. Yeah.
Who I got to know a lot with my dad on NFL Fox Sunday, and obviously through meeting him through football. Yeah. But what a man. And just like, the lore around him, the number one thing everybody thinks about is the pinky, right? How did that whole thing go down? Is it how I heard it, or?
Yeah, I guess he got in there and got stuck. His finger got stuck in somebody's helmet, and it just got pretty much torn off. Yeah. And so they gave him we can sew it back on, and it'll take 3-4 weeks to get, or we can just take it off and you can play next week. He said, take it off.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, Ronnie was in charge of Charles.
Yeah, he was Charles's chaperone. Good. That's good. It sounds like y'all's reputation wasn't a motley crew, but there's some personalities on that team.
Oh my God. Yeah. There was some fun. Don't you know how the locker room is?
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy. And Charles was the big part of the craziness when he was in there, because he was always stirring it up.
How did you make determinations, like back to the health thing? Like, I know you had a lot of elbow issues. I've heard you talk about, having to shoot it up. And I know from having injuries, when you're shooting cortisone into a spot, it's going to eat at the ligaments and that sort of thing. Eventually, it's going to be good in the short run. Do you think that like slowly kind of affected your capabilities late in your career? And how did you make those determinations of like, is it worth it?
Well, it did eventually, but while I was getting shot, it was helping. Yes. So it didn't hurt. Right. And I mean, literally I'd get shot up on the way to either on the airplane or, after we landed, depending on how far we were going. And it was like 12 or 13 weeks in a row. And eventually, like you said, it just ate through the tendon. And it literally the hard part was I'd just come back from the broken hand. So I hadn't really done any work on my arm or throwing or anything. So I was just out playing catch with a guy I played with at Notre Dame, Dave Weimer, who was on the 49ers at the time. And I just felt it go. I felt it go. And I didn't know, well, that felt weird. And then I tried to throw, I threw again, and I tore that pronator off. Yes. And so they sewed it up, drilled some holes, put some staples in it, and it was fine, except for one of the staples, every time I threw, would hit my ulnar nerve.
It shut your whole arm down, right?
Yeah, so it would like zing me. So they went in to take that out, and they ended up dinging that nerve, and I lost all grip strength in these two fingers and half of this one. And so that's what took me the longest to come back from the injury. But even then, after that, I had great therapy, and I was ready to play long before I got on the field. I was at least halfway through the season. I could have gone out there, but
and I've heard now, like, the main thing you deal with is back pain, right?
Well, I've done a lot of work on my back. Unfortunately for me, Chris, I got a new knee. I got a new shoulder that actually got infected.
Damn.
And so, they had to take it out. And 3 or 4 surgeries later, they put it back in. And I would say that in my neck. I got a 5-level neck fusion.
Yeah.
My back, I honestly, I totally forget about my back most of the time now. I just do so much core work that I forget about that part of it. And those are the things like my neck. I'm kind of limited. If I look like I'm forward, I think he fused me a hair forward.
Yes.
And my wife's been trying to get me to straighten up, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm limited more turning to the right than to the left. And I threw a football for the first time championship weekend. So I felt okay, better than I thought.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing what they do. I mean, my dad got his neck fused too. He had a shoulder. And if you see him on Fox Sunday and he looks like somebody has a good point and he's trying to work his big ass head around to address the other guy that said it's because he got the same thing you did.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's hard. It's funny. Like even though sometimes I can move my neck, I can move it further left. I still want to go like this.
Yeah. You turn your whole shoulders
for some reason instead of just turning my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, the game was, to me, was it worth it? Yeah, it was too much fun.
But I mean, you just have such a, like, for all the things you're known for and all your excellence, sounds like toughness was right up there. And like, I heard a story this morning I'd never heard before, and I don't know if it's true, was you played with hypothermia in college?
Yeah, I got sick in the my senior year. We played in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. We played Houston, and we played some cold games before, and I never go to the heater. I get colder when I come back off of it.
Right.
Man, in this game, 4th down, sprinted to the heater. Mm-hmm. And by halftime, I was shaking so bad I couldn't come out after halftime. So they gave me they tried to heat my core to get my temperature back up. And sometime in the 3rd quarter, I got to come back out of the locker room. They finally gave me some chicken bouillon and kind of heated me up, and then I went back out. And
Soup.
We came back to win. That was an ugly game. Yes. I might have had 18 turnovers, but I threw a touchdown pass. Touchdown pass to win.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. You've seen it all, man. And you've probably seen, like, I don't know. It's funny because you're a Niner and you've seen all these damn QB injuries this year, and they seem so snake bit. Brock Purdy's the big question. I mean, like, do you think that he's the guy in the future? You've dealt with elbow injuries, maybe not this specific injury, but do you think he can come back next year? And are you sympathetic to Jimmy's plight? Because I feel like Jimmy's been passed over a lot, but he's won a lot of games for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I have the same feeling on that, but I think, the Tommy John thing, the medical world has gotten so much better. Yeah. And from my understanding, the surgery's gotten somewhat, it's never easy, but it's gotten a little bit easier to rehab. And, that part of it's gotten better. But for me, you have a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
Right? I think the job is Purdy's to lose if he's healthy.
Yeah.
Or when he's healthy. But that's my question. What if it's not 6 months? What if it's 7 months? What if it's 8 months? You need somebody who's won games for you.
Yes.
Because that team is too good not to have someone who knows. And do you turn it over to Trey, who's, still somewhat unproven, or you got Jimmy sitting there? But I don't know. There must be some rift down there. Like I said, I don't go down there, so I don't know. I talk this just off the top of my head and looking and watching the things that Purdy was able to do was somewhat the hardest part I think they have is with Jimmy is you can't keep him on the field. Yes. What is this? Is this third injury, I think?
Yep.
And while he's healthy, he plays pretty well.
Yeah.
But you got to, and for me, it would be a safety net if you had someone that could play like that. Or is there anyone out there that's run that offense before that can step right in? I don't know. Maybe they know something more. I don't stay that close to the game.
Yeah.
But if it's me, I try to find a way to hang on to him until I can figure out whether Purdy can make it back.
And that might cost you because he's he's a free agent and maybe he doesn't feel too good about the way that he's perceived to have been treated. I mean, like I could see it from his angle. Like it feels like he's the guy that for whatever reason they just don't want to make their mind up on sticking with him, and injuries are part of it. But ironically, if they're passing him up for somebody, they've done it for a rookie, and it's just the window's wide open, and they haven't been able to capitalize. So I feel bad for that team, and I feel for Jimmy too. I know.
I do too.
I know you. Like as I learned more about your career, it was funny because to me, I was a little kid. Like, and as I got older, I learned about the fact that not only the Seifert era was weird for you, but like you and Bill probably butted heads a lot. Like I didn't know he had designated starts for Steve Young in the late 80s. Like you're the best in the game and you've got this young kid that they're trying to appease and see what he's got, and they're inserting him into the season, and you guys are contenders. Like how weird was that? And did you and Bill like butt heads about that? Like when you won the Super Bowl, was part of you like, yeah, I'm showing you too?
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit different. It's kind of people laugh because, you're just getting it back because when Steve DeBerg was here, he did that to me with Steve.
Yeah.
But the difference was we were 2-14 and 6-10. And so I was getting playing time. He was teaching me the game.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. In the easiest spots he could put me into. And Steve and I were good friends, are still good friends. And, every time I'd go in I cringed as I was passing him on the way to the huddle. And it's like, geez, sorry, man. But, and then everybody said, well, you're just getting it back from what happened there. But the difference was we had a good team.
Yes.
He wasn't getting stuck in the games where, we had to battle for. He was going to give them the teams that weren't playing well at that time. And that's the part I didn't appreciate. And then as after Bill left with George and when I was healthy and not even we just should have gone to 3 Super Bowls in a row and not even be able to compete for my job that part I didn't think was fair after they stuck him up my butt for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. And then you get in the game like late in one of those years. I think it was like the last game of the season. Yeah. And there's basically a fucking curtain call for you because you go out there and you look like you're tossing touchdowns, and then you gotta go back to the sideline. That had to be surreal and frustrating. I know you and Steve are cool now, but it's never easy.
No, it wasn't easy. And, everybody used to say, well, how did you help Steve along? I go, no, not my job.
Yeah. Which wouldn't go over well now, which is crazy. People got mad at Ryan Tannehill.
I know. My job was to make sure he stayed behind me. Right. And if he's staying behind me, then I'm doing my job.
Yes.
I'm playing well. And that's how I approach it. But I did that with everybody. Get to Kansas City, Dave Craig was there.
Yeah.
Right? And as much as I love Dave, I'm not going to let him play.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked too hard to get where I am, and I want to play, period. And, people will say, well, that's ridiculous. You should be. You're not a team player. No, I'm a team player. But I believe I can help the team more than either one of those. And that's my contribution, that I'm helping the team by making myself better. And, but it happens to everybody eventually.
Yeah.
And then you just move on. And, part of it's kind of what sours you at the end and makes you go, nah, I don't need to go down there.
Right. Exactly. Well, yeah, it's usually associated with some of the political BS, like whether it's you late in your career, like for me, lamenting the fact that they want young guys in the building. And
exactly.
The best guy might not always play. And that sort of, like it's that stuff that messes up football, at least in my head. And, I can only imagine that would be such a shit show if that happened now. You've got an MVP kind of quarterback and he's got to take a seat for a young quarterback, and you're on a great team that's a contending team. It's wild. It's kind of unthinkable. I wanted to ask you about your Super Bowl teams, man. The Super Bowl 24 team, 55-10 over my producer. He's a Broncos fan. He wasn't alive yet, so it didn't hurt so bad. But 55-10, you alluded to your defense, top 3 defense. You're 14-2. You lose 2 games by a combined 5 points. We don't do this enough, but is that one of the best teams all time? Was that the best team you were on?
Yeah. Well, that series of guys between the team, the 23, 24, and then the next year where we should have gone back again.
Yeah.
That was the best all-around talent on. Although Ronnie Lott he'll battle with me about it. He thinks the '84 team was
okay.
And the '84 team had a really good defense.
Yes.
But we just didn't have the weapons. We didn't have like Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Brent Jones. We had good wide receivers, and we had Roger Craig, obviously.
Yes.
But we just didn't have the speed and the guys that could turn little things into big things. Sort of when you look at the 49ers right now with McCaffrey and Debo and all that, you don't have to make plays. Those guys will make plays. Just give them the ball. Right. And that was the way it was with John Taylor and Jerry and Brent even. And hey, just do your job, get them the ball, and let them do their thing, because that's what they do best. And that's the one time that I was a little disappointed, because you know how it is when you're ahead. You can't wait. It's nice to be taken out of the game.
Yeah. Except
when you're in the Super Bowl, you don't want to come out of it. Exactly. The only game you don't want to come out of, especially when you're having a pretty good offensive day. So,
we love staying in the game on defense, because y'all were throwing the ball and everybody was in 2-minute mode. That's where we made our money. So we'd be fighting to stay on the field. So the Super Bowl 16 run. Your first one, obviously, the catch it's etched in stone as one of the greatest plays in playoff history. I think the throw was the lead, but I know you and Dwight were great friends.
Yeah.
Is there? That's the catch, okay? Is there the other catch in your head? And I don't mean that you were involved in, but when you look back at the history of the playoffs, is there a catch that you think deserves a lot of credit to be counted up there with that Dwight Clark reception in the back of the end zone?
I was just watching the Super Bowl with Eli.
Yeah.
And that catch was pretty crazy.
The Manning
There were some pretty crazy ones. Well, and I'm trying to remember who it was in Pittsburgh.
Catch,
The Pittsburgh had...
It's Antonio Holmes. I just saw him. I just saw him Saturday. And I said, man, that was the best Super Bowl catch of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah. That was a great catch.
Talk about your friendship with Dwight, and you guys remain close over the years, and God rest his soul, passed away from ALS.
Yeah.
How hard was that, and how important was it that you guys stayed close?
Yeah, it was. We came in together. He thought I was the kicker when he first saw me. He didn't realize I was the guy that just beat him when we went through Clemson. So. That disease is just so tough to watch, and it happens fast. And hopefully they're finding ways to slow it down and help people who also suffer from it. But we had a lot of fun. We joked a lot. We were roommates for a while, and then ended up getting married, and then he got married, and you kind of separate a little bit, and then eventually you get, something like this brings you back together again. But I used to joke with them all the time, and that, dude, come on, seriously. It took you forever to get to the back of the end zone, to do what you're supposed to do. And then I'm waiting. I got a 6'8" guy standing in front of me with his hands up in the air. And I have to throw the ball finally. And I go, and then you got to do what? You can throw your arms up, kick your legs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I said, if you were a brother, man, that ball would hit you right here.
Right. Yeah, he had to make it look all dramatic.
Yeah. We laugh all the time.
Yeah.
We laughed all the time.
That's so.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's great.
You guys,
it's great because I don't know how many guys are close to where you are, but we got a lot of guys that still live in this around the area, like Jerry and Billy Ring, Keena Turner. My prayers are out for Keena today. He's having open heart surgery. So,
man.
And Eric Wright. There's a bunch. Guy McIntyre. There's a bunch of guys, bunch more even than that. I just talking off the top of my head. So, and Charles shows up every now and then.
Every now and again to fix your porch.
Yeah.
So Jerry Rice, man, he's been talked about at length for decades. Would you describe him as a flashy player? I thought he was all kind of
he called
him,
Yeah, he called himself flash, but he wasn't flashy at all. The only thing he was flashy at is he had to have his uniform perfect. He would change at halftime if it was dirty.
No way.
Yeah, it's funny. We laugh about it all the time. I just did a bunch of interviews with him over the weekend here, and we laugh all the time. And he goes, you play like you look, he says. And he called himself Flash, but he just was, when he first got to the league, and even the whole time that I remember him being there, he never said a word. He and John Taylor, they were the hardest to get anything out of. You go, Jerry, so you throw the ball to JT or you dump the ball off and go, JR, what did it look like, man? Did you have him? He goes, were you open? He goes, yeah. And then you turn on the film, there's like 3 guys on. But neither one of them spoke much at all.
Really?
Yeah, it was hard. Once we got to the sideline, you could get a little bit of feedback, but other than that, they were quiet. It was, there wasn't a lot of that happening on a building. A lot of that happened. So
that surprises me about Jerry, because the times I've been around him, he's real charismatic.
Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
Changed his whole personality.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once he got back from there, and Eric Wright, he said, dude, what the hell happened to you after Dancing with the Stars?
That's some good shit. I cannot believe that. Well, did I hear this right? John Taylor had a car dealership he worked at in the offseason? Like guys had other jobs in the offseason?
Yeah, he used to drive a truck.
Yeah,
he used to drive a truck across country. Back to the Philly area, right, where he grew up. And he would just pick up a load and go. And then pick up another load and come back. Yeah, he was crazy.
That's just, it's unthinkable now, right? The college kids are making that kind of, like the college kids and their NIL money, they don't have to drive trucks. It's just crazy. Yeah, trucking company. And still drives a truck, according to Wikipedia. So, John Taylor, he was a man of many talents. I want to finish with the Kansas City chapter because it's really cool that you seem like you embraced that whole chapter, and you guys were good. You guys were really good, better than people remember. And what's it like watching them? We talked about the Super Bowl earlier. How much bandwidth do you have to root for 2 teams?
Yeah, no, I still pull for both of them. Kansas City was honestly. I didn't want to leave San Francisco, but I wasn't going to sit behind somebody I thought I was better than, and I wanted to play. I didn't want to finish my career on the bench, and so when we started looking around, Arizona made me a crazy offer, like 4 times, like double what I was going to make in Kansas City, and my agent and my wife agreed with him, said you won't make it through the season. They don't have an offensive line, and they went through 4 quarterbacks that season. And, man, you got a great organization. You had a really good team, especially defensively. Wow, we had a really good team defensively. And offensively, then we added Marcus. to come on. And, we had fast up speed on the outside, which, man, those boys, you outrun my arm so quickly.
Right. You're like, I wish I had him in 1982.
Yeah. I'm like, I get back, I hit that fifth step, and that ball had to come out fast because, but we lost the game like 3 games from the end, and what made us go to Buffalo. And instead, we lost home field position. And at home that day, it was 50 degrees and sunshine. And that's not what it was in Buffalo.
Yeah.
So, it was about -9, wind chill, light drizzle. It was crazy. I couldn't throw the ball 15 yards. It was bad.
That home field's so important. And this is from my producer. He wants to know, are you okay with Joe Cool being passed on to Joe Burrow? Or every time you hear somebody call Joe Burrow Joe Cool, do your ears perk up?
No, it doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother you?
Yeah, no, not at all.
You like him? You like him, Joe?
Yeah. Usually, if it wasn't for a push in the back, they might have been there.
I know.
Good for the Chiefs, bad for him.
Yeah, no question. Okay, we wanted to clear that up because we're going to then continue to call him Joe Cool. We got the permission of the original Joe Cool.
And we're both now with Guinness. So
yes, I know. I like the commercials. I like. What the hell was that guy's problem? Calling you old man and saying, I hate that guy in that commercial.
Me too.
Yeah. Joe Montana, really appreciate the time, man. It's great to see you again. Be sure to check out all the cool stuff on the Golden Auction site. I mean, there's some amazing stuff on here. And like I said, it's been a pleasure. And you were always so cool to me as a kid. It's really nice of you to come on the pod, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'll tell Nicholas I talk to you.
Yeah, tell him stay out of the ice machines.
Your ice mate.
Tell him stay out of the ice machines, okay? All right.
I'll do it, man. Great talking to you. To tell everybody I said hello, man.
I will, Joe. It's good to see you, man. All right, take it easy.
You too.
Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.